While Chinese and Japanese students have the knowledge, the president of Waseda University explains how colleges can channel this into empathy. This is very crucial as we are having so many stories of young people around the world today. Welcome back. You're still watching World Insight, coming to you live from Beijing. I'm Tian Wei. Global governance and governance within societies is indispensable because nations and our society increasingly are facing enormous challenges that are global in scale but also local when it comes to the real potential. Governance can benefit from education that hones in fresh talents and ideas. In our special series, Governance Makes a Difference, we get a chance to hear out some of the world's preeminent experts and scholars. Today, we have the president of Waseda University, Aiji Tanaka. He has a new outlook on cultivating talents in modern Japan. As a country with an early economic takeoff, Japan hopes to regain its vitality. And Waseda University, as a leading institution in Japan, is grappling with the idea of global governance. It aims to help the students to find their niche in a complex environment to tackle global challenges and also, of course, difficulties and challenges at home. Take a look. President Tanaka, what a pleasure to see you in Beijing.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
You have been, President Tanaka, talking about Vision 150 for your university. Mainly it's about how to be able to innovate and attract the best talents in the world. So how does that work?
Now Japan has been facing the problem to which no one really knows the answer. So we have to educate the young people to think about the problem to which no one really knows the answer. And then right now the human beings, entire human beings on the globe, facing the same problem.
Yeah.
Like religious conflict between different religions, or global warming.
Yes.
And in Japan, we have the aging population and fewer and fewer fertility rate, and those things no one really knows the answer. So we have to educate the younger people to think about their own solution to the new problem.
What you have said, President Tanaka, is a very important question. The questions are even more important than the answer itself. That is how to answer questions that nobody have ever seen before.
Right.
But I really wonder, Japan is a great case study for the other economies. Because Japan, you were a developing country after the war, catching up.
Yeah.
But now already at some stage of the development.
Right.
So this is a great case study also for China, even though our population size is different. But when did you realize, academic circle, as you in university, that there is a need that Japan had to ask those questions you have never asked before? And how were those questions being shaped? By whom?
The younger people have to shape the question, form the questions, I think. They have to be exposed to the different world view, and they have to be, expose themselves to the diversity, to the different people, meet the different people with different language, different culture, different religion, and then younger people see the world better.
Yeah.
And so at Waseda University, we're emphasizing to study abroad. And hopefully every single student who grow up in Japan should go out, study abroad, to go outside of Japan, look at Japan from outside of it.
That's very important, you
very
consider.
Important. And also...
Would they have very different answers after they come back to Japan?
Yeah, right. Very different. And could be much more flexible. And I myself went to the United States after I graduated from Waseda University, and I spent 10 years studying in the United States. And after I came back, I taught 3 different universities and then came back to Waseda University. I have been exposed myself to different views and so forth, and many Japanese trained in that way. Grew up in Japan, educated in Japan. The views are very narrow, and now at our university we're emphasizing to accept more international students to study at Waseda.
In Japan, you have a very comfortable life. I mean, the students, young people, because it's a developed economy. How would you encourage them to be more worldly in a way?
Some of the younger people who come back after study abroad for like a junior year or senior year student, they have experienced the study abroad. They can talk to the younger people, and they can, they receive the strong stimuli, different incentives, and then they can talk to the younger students that I had a great experience, and why don't you do that to the younger people?
So this is the kind of peer, in a way, influence.
Peer influence, right.
So what you're advocating, Professor and President, is very different from the traditional culture.
Yes, that's true.
Was it difficult to push that?
Right, but still, I think there's a way to, keeping the, East Asian type of manner, East Asian manner, but showing their ideas, showing their passions through the very cordial conversation.
China and Japan, it is true that we've been going through some roller coasting experiences.
Yeah.
So how much do you think it takes educators like you and your counterparts in China to be able to make the interactions sustainable?
Just about a month ago, we had 3 countries, China, Korea, and Japan, and 3 countries triangle meeting.
Yes.
And each country's Minister of Education, Department of Education, Minister of Education, sponsored that. But although the university president got together and exchanged their ideas, and then we kind of all agreed that Japan and Korea and China and Japan and and we have in our past we had a very difficult time and hard time.
Yes.
And then right now Korea and Japan are having a very hard time. However, no matter how difficult the politics or international relations wise, we can communicate as an educator, and actually not despite of the hard time, but because we are having hard time, we have to communicate better. And then actually those 3 countries educators kind of agreed that we have to keep making our effort to communicate and try to understand each other.
Of course, next year it could be a great year for Japan and China. I mean, it seems that some kind of foundation has been paved to build up to a leaders meeting sometime early next year.
Right.
But to you as an educator, what advice would you give to the leaders of the 2 countries in terms of how to better promote educational exchanges, the youth programs?
Of course, each leader has a responsibility to protect that their own country, and also urge the development of each country.
Yes.
But despite of that role of the leaders, they should try to listen to each other, try to generate antagonism each other, and just leaders try to communicate each other and try to find the best way, and then media and those leaders try to send the message to the people that those leaders are making an effort to understand each other, and so people should try to understand each other.
What about university among yourselves, cooperation? I mean, you are here on an occasion to work with Tsinghua University. I know your university also work with other Chinese universities on a very sustainable basis. So how much do you think university and educational exchanges will be able to bring some kind of momentum?
So let me take the Waseda example. Waseda University was founded in 1882, and but 1905, and early 20th century, and Waseda created the Department of Chinese Studies students, and we accepted many Asian students, many Chinese students, and some Korean students. And 1905 until 1915 or so, until before the very international relations of Japan became very difficult, we have taught accumulation of the 3,000 Asian students. Most of them are Chinese students, and then that has a very good impact for the long run.
Another, Professor Tanaka, is about innovation. Japan is an innovation hub, starting from the 1970s. And China now is also becoming more innovative, particularly in the application of technologies. Now, how do you see, from an educator and researcher's perspective, the two economies be able to play their own distinctive role in terms of innovation?
I think we are entering the new phase. Chinese innovation is very rapid and very innovative now. And then many Japanese corporations are very interested in Chinese innovations.
They're having their innovation hub even in China.
Right, right. So Japanese should not be just imitating what China does. We should learn from China, but just imitation will not go very well. So we should learn from China, but think about our own way.
The other thing is about, interesting to many of the Chinese these days, is about how Japan survived and thrived from the 1970s and 80s, when Japan and the United States were at some kinds of a trade war. You experienced that period of time as a young man. So tell me more about how you remembered universities, young people, educators, innovation, all of these elements work during a time when Japan was also struggling with one of your most difficult bilateral relations.
Japan was a copycat, emulating what the U.S. does, and then Japan, providing the better product with a cheaper price. What we are doing is just, valid thing, and nothing wrong with that. And those countries, both are the different logics, but probably the solution would be again the communication. And if some of the Japanese leaders were educated part of their lives in the United States, they could understand better. And some of the American leaders were, spend some part of their lives in Japan, they could understand better.
But that were not the case.
That was not the case then. So that gives us a lesson that younger people should spend some time in other countries.
So you think strategic rivalry, as being termed by some politicians, can be resolved by how educational institutions work?
Right.
Really?
Right.
Is that too naive a thought? Some would say?
For educators, that's the only way to do. It takes a long time. And so we cannot solve tomorrow's issue. We have to pave the way for taking time. And then, so like Schwarzman College is one of those things. Like many Americans are studying in China and understanding China. And when they go back to the United States, they will be the different type of new leaders. And then same thing for Japan. We are sending many students to China, and we are receiving many students from China. And then they understand each other, and we can solve tomorrow's problem. But in 20 years from now, they will be understanding better. So they may come up with a new solution, different type of solution than our generation.
I see you look at long-term, President Tanaka, but at the same time, short-term also very important.
Very important.
If you see the rise of unilateralism in the world, you also see protectionism. Japan, once again, is a trading nation. You might not necessarily prefer protectionism in economies. You also see the young people uncertain about their future, and therefore take a very different way of expressing themselves?
I'm just opposing to the, urging the antagonism. That's it's called populism, for the sake of the political leaders' popularity among the people. Is saying something very sharp towards the trade partner or the opponent, and rather than that, I'm trying to teach to my students that right now think about don't be influenced by the very radical media. Don't be think about very radical like a political leaders or demagogues, but think clear, objectively, and then think. Use your own brain and think through.
I noticed through our conversation, you use one verb all the time. Oh. Think. What kind of thinking do you think all of us at this moment, no matter where we come from or what age group, we really need to think collectively?
We have to be depending on the knowledge too much. I mean, East Asian countries who emphasize the knowledge in our education, China and Korea and Japan, and all the students are trained very well, but knowledge based, and also logic too. But we have to think uniquely, and each one of us, and each one of the Chinese, each one of the Korean, each one of the Japanese, have to get used to the think her or his own unique solution. And so that's why I'm saying think. So collectively, we have to try to understand each other.
Yeah.
And mutual understanding. That collectively, we all think.
I see.
Yeah.
Listen to your own voices, inner voices.
Oh, yeah.
But at the same time, work together to think on some of the bigger issues.
Right.
President Tanaka, what a pleasure to see you in Beijing.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Really appreciate it. Aiji Tanaka, president of Waseda University from Japan. The key word, think. And that is all the time we have for today. If you'd like to see more, try to find us World Insight CGTN into your search engine. Check out our YouTube channel. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook. From me, Tian Wei, and everyone on World Insight team, thanks for watching. Tune in again next time for more insights across China and around the world. Have a great weekend.